All right, so here we are unpacking the consequences of this Western Cape High Court decision to set aside all nuclear deals that South Africa have had in their future plans. That's now something that has been put on hold, and everything must go back to the drawing board. Dr. David Fig is with us in studio just talking a bit about this. He's an environmental sociologist. Dr. Fig, thanks again. Thanks for staying around with us. I just want to talk a little bit of money now because, you know, we've all been looking and reading reports about the fact that South Africa did set aside, or the government had set aside 1 trillion rand for this, but this has been disputed. And are these false media reports that it was ever estimated that much would be spent on nuclear?
The Treasury has not set aside that amount of money. We don't know where the money is going to come from. We know that we are now consigned to junk status, so that borrowing that kind of money would be incredibly expensive and put us into debt for many generations. So we don't have a budget for this trillion rand. I mean, these are estimates, and I think that 1 trillion rand is an underestimate given the way the rand has been performing and given the fact that we have very big ambitions with nuclear.
Yeah. So when we look at nuclear, what are the dangerous parts? The expense that the country will basically be spending on it? Is that the primary worry, or is it the safety issue?
I think it's mostly the worry about the industry and its relationship to our democratic system. Firstly, it's going to be very expensive. Secondly, it's very secretive. We know that all these deals were done in back rooms and back corridors. We know that the industry itself is not very forthcoming with details about its activities. So it doesn't help to build our energy democracy at all. There are ways where we can decentralize our energy sources through renewables and implementing them across the country and implementing them in a way in which future generations won't be penalized with huge amounts of debt. Nuclear is a very centralized form of power. We also need to take note of the fact that we don't need this extra power. Even though we were scared into asking for more sources of power during the load shedding period. Yeah. What Stats SA are showing us is that demand has actually gone down quite sharply.
Is that an economic indicator?
It's an economic indicator, but we're also wiser about energy. More firms and more households are turning towards energy saving. All our equipment, all our technology is getting greener. The way in which we use transport and so on, all of these things are actually helping us to keep down our electricity bills because the prices of electricity have escalated hugely.
I want to talk about that because Eskom are using the argument, and perhaps you can also help us understand this, that if nuclear had come about, we would be paying a lot less for electricity.
I think I dispute that completely, and based on work done by the CSIR energy people who are showing us clearly that of all the sources of energy, including coal, nuclear will be the most expensive. New nuclear power will be the most expensive form of energy that we convert to electricity. Yeah. So if they are saying that, if the science is saying that, we should follow suit.
Yeah. You know, when we look at renewable energies, and we speak about it all the time, that South Africa is the perfect environment for renewable energies, and that we can, you know, it's something that should be implemented very fast and furiously, and also it's a way of South Africans selling it back to the grid and earning a little bit of income on themselves. So why are we not favouring that? Why are we not moving in that direction like many other countries in the world?
Part of government and even part of Eskom and part of the Department of Energy do favour it, but it's contested. And it's contested because it's not going to make Eskom a whole lot of money. It's good for South Africans, but it may not be good for Eskom at the present moment. And we need to have an Eskom that's much more receptive to our needs as a country.
Yeah. You know, I mean, we did an unbelievable broadcast, and I must say it was one of my highlights being there at Nexa. and seeing at the stuff that they're actually doing. And it's not necessarily only for power generation, but, you know, South Africa's had nuclear for well over 20 years, but not for power generation, but for many other industries. So it is used, but maybe not on the scale we want to use it.
Well, you see, we also have a history of using nuclear for weapons manufacture and a weapons establishment. And these were weapons of mass destruction produced during the apartheid years. So we mustn't forget that there's this link between nuclear science and the defense industry that we shouldn't sweep under the carpet. So there's no doubt that there are some benefits from the industry, but these benefits should be contained and used for social good. And I think that our nuclear establishment wants to get into the energy field at a time when really it should be a past page of our history.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just think let's get your opinions as well, because I know this is one of your fields that you really feel very passionately about, and that's fracking. Let's talk about that now, your views on that.
Well, I feel that at the moment, even though government or the Minister of Mineral Resources has recently said that fracking will be underway, there's no real enthusiasm on the part of the oil companies to frack in the Karoo at the moment. So I think at present we're not going to see much progress in the field of fracking. I don't think it's a long-term solution to our energy needs.
Yeah, all right. Well, I think you've given us some great clarity here on the program with regard to nuclear and the decisions that were made in the Western Cape High Court, setting aside any deals that may have been made when it comes to nuclear. Instead, it needs to go back to the drawing board, and more consultation needs to be held. Public participation and consultation. That's what the Western Cape High Court has ruled. Dr. David Figg is an environmental sociologist who's written on nuclear energy and all energy matters, and we're talking about that court ruling. All right.